After protests and riots, police and prosecutors strike back with several arrests. Criminal charges include kidnapping. We take a closer look at that. According to the federal government, white supremacy terrorism is one of the biggest threats this country is facing. We learn how a militant neo-Nazi group may be trying to make a comeback in Colorado. And we've got random Colorado history, an apple that's called an orange, and while we're on food, we might as well get corn in here. The corn maze. Find your way to good news. Welcome to your Friday. It's just about the weekend. Next. And this evening, we begin with breaking news. The Supreme Court says Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died of metastatic pancreatic cancer. She died today at her home in Washington, surrounded by her family. Justice Ginsburg had a significant impact on the Supreme Court, where she served for 27 years. She was seen as a champion of gender equality and leaves behind a legacy that cannot be summarized in this brief news report. Her death will likely set in motion what promises to be a nasty political battle over who will succeed her. We'll have more on this on 9 News tonight. Police and prosecutors are hitting back. We've been reporting on the fact several people have been charged with felonies in the wake of riots and protests in Aurora. This is clearly a message from law enforcement, but why are some people charged with kidnapping? It's how the state law is written, and prosecutors are using that. Anusha Roy got into working on this story and was able to talk to someone behind bars who got arrested.
Push for justice following Elijah McClain's death oscillated between peaceful and not. Now half a dozen people are facing charges in Adams and Arapahoe counties. But the charge that had a lot of people puzzled is why several activists faced kidnapping charges.
I mean, even if you don't forcibly pick somebody up and take them somewhere, if you imprison them and ask a third person to give you a concession.
9 News legal expert Scott Robinson read through the arrest affidavit regarding July 3rd. The court document says an estimated 600 people surrounded an Aurora police station, and doors were tied shut from the outside with 18 officers inside. Robinson said to understand the argument here means taking a look at the way Colorado law is written.
A person can commit kidnapping by trying to force a concession from one person in exchange for not imprisoning a second person.
The affidavit says that there was a conversation between the then interim police chief and Lillian House with the Denver Party for Socialism and Liberation, demanding 2 more officers involved in McClain's death be fired, or the group outside the police station would not move.
I stand firmly in that was First Amendment protected, and that these charges are, really ridiculous.
House spoke to us from jail, saying she isn't entirely shocked she was arrested, but outraged.
We're activists for justice, and that's not a crime. The kidnapping charge is really inappropriate and out of touch with the nature of the demonstration that the community put on that evening.
She says she doesn't want people to be discouraged by the arrests.
It is a countrywide issue that is a matter of life and death on a daily basis, and we can't be scared out of participating in that struggle.
So today, House said that she did not know about the doors being closed from the outside at the police station. She also said that she's still working to understand the charges and the basis behind them. We did ask the 17th Judicial District Attorney to talk, but we're told that he wasn't available. So I did want to share what he had released earlier this week, saying he supports the First Amendment right for people to protest peacefully, but that there is a difference between a peaceful protest and a riot. He also said when individuals cross that line and break the law, they will be prosecuted. Jeremy?
Yeah, Anusha, this is going to be very interesting how the Colorado judicial system will be treating these cases, and it'll be interesting to see how these cases end up. If anybody pleads out, if there will be a dismissal of some of these charges here. What about the other people who were charged?
Yeah, so at this point, we're trying to piece that together. We know that not everybody is being held at the same place, and that at least one person was released on bond earlier today around 11:30. To be honest, we don't know the status of everyone, but that everyone who got in trouble is facing multiple counts at this point.
All right, Anusha, thank you very much for that report. There may be more to a case of vandalism at a Colorado business. A sticker featuring a Nazi symbol appeared on a shop window earlier this month. Someone told me about it, and I took a look and found something familiar. Turns out a militant neo-Nazi group may be trying to reestablish itself in our state. a group tied to 5 murders. Over a Black Lives Matter poster in Colorado Springs, a man in camouflage posted this sticker on a shop window, knocked and then ran off. In a police report, the shop owner says the vandal had a mask with bones on the face, with just his eyes showing, an image of Hitler, a swastika, and the name National Socialist Order. The National Socialist Order is a new name for the now-defunct militant neo-Nazi group Atomwaffen. After the FBI and law enforcement busted several Atomwaffen members on gun crimes and for threatening journalists in February, the group disbanded in the spring.
Today, the FBI took an important step in countering what is seen as the top domestic terrorism threat facing our nation today, racially motivated violent extremism.
Now, the NSO has a new website with all the hallmarks of Atomwaffen's racist philosophies and wishes. A pure Aryan race to be established through violence and war in the United States. It also showcases a familiar face.
This is James Mason.
Prominent neo-Nazi James Mason remains in high esteem in the NSO as a godfather figure, like he did in Atomwaffen. Mason is still active from his Denver apartment, making racist videos online that the NSO shares through its new social media accounts. Last year, we encountered Mason, who denied responsibility for inspiring violence.
A lot of people take your words and they're acting violent based on your words.
If they were acting on my words, they wouldn't be doing the things they're doing, throwing their lives away. I say, and here I am talking to you, but I say, don't do it. But if you're going to do it, for God's sake, do it right.
The group is actively recruiting online. This as the federal government considers white supremacy terrorism as one of the biggest threats facing the country today. So I reached out to the Denver FBI about this group to see if they are even aware of the NSO. The FBI never responded. So this wasn't the only sticker to appear in Colorado Springs. Stickers were also found at a bus depot in that city. Colorado and the U.S. Postal Service have reached a settlement in a federal lawsuit filed Saturday. The intent of that legal action was to block the Postal Service from sending out incorrect mailers to a lot of people in Colorado. But turns out it was too late on a lot of that stuff because 75% of us have already received those incorrect mailers with false information. They describe how to handle mail-in ballots but aren't specific to Colorado and give that information, like telling you to request your mail-in ballot when we get one automatically. As part of the settlement, the Postal Service has agreed to destroy the remaining mailers. The Postal Service has also agreed to give Colorado the ability to preview any future national media materials related to the voting in election 2020. And Colorado will have the right to temporarily block the release of any material that will confuse voters. Alrighty, so I'm in here tonight in place of Kyle, so you know what that means. You get a little bit of random Colorado history. It's always good to look back because doing so helps us look forward, right? Maybe sometimes. We go back to 100 years ago. The Fort Collins, Coloradoan on September 18th, 1920 caught my attention. Sheriff seizes Weldman's booze plant. White Mule has kick. This was during Prohibition. Alcohol was illegal at the time. The article describes how local cops found a guy making a batch of booze called White Mule. They found a few jugs in a shed in Erie, Colorado. The mash was described as containing prunes, raisins, and lemons. The article says, quote, White Mule has a very penetrating odor and has remarkable kicking power, hence the name White Mule. Probably not related to the Moscow Mule. We asked a group of teenagers to write about their pandemic experiences.
It's 2020 and I want to write because I know I have something to say.
They took the assignment a step further and comparing apples to apples. A Colorado couple may have proven a fruit thought to be extinct still grows. And the most Colorado thing for today, the ride to pick up a new ride. Next. Alrighty, here we go. May I make a recommendation? This is where we tell you about something that is not ours, but is worth your time. It's a piece from Colorado-based CNN photojournalist Jeremy Harlan. He interviewed a couple that searched for nearly 20 years for a type of Colorado apple thought to be extinct. Turns out it wasn't. The couple found one tree still producing the fruit at an old orchard in Fremont County. The apple is called the Colorado orange. It's a late season apple. It was popular in the late 1800s because it could be stored for long periods of time and then eaten in the wintertime. Harlan's piece details the couple's efforts to find the fruit and to verify the real deal. He also delves into Colorado's fruit-producing history, why the Colorado orange, the apple, disappeared, and how it could make a big comeback in the next 5 to 10 years. We'll provide a link to this story on the next Facebook page. As more students head back to school, the Second Wind Fund is expecting an influx of referrals for young people at risk for suicide. That's why our Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign this week is dedicated to this organization. They connect young people, kids, with therapists who can save their lives. Since Wednesday, Next viewers have given more than $46,000 to the Second Wind Fund. If you still want to donate your $5, you can text THANKS to 303-871-1491. We may never know the big impact this small gift has, but it could very well be the one that got someone through some of the darkest times in their life. For that, we are very thankful for your generosity. If someone in your life right now is in crisis, they can call the Colorado Crisis Service at 844-493-8255 or text the word TALK to 38255. We're all living through a global health crisis.
This might not be what history chooses to remember, but it's really important to us right now.
4 teenagers share their pandemic experiences through poetry. And we go searching for your good news. We get corny. Oh yeah, I went there. Next. Welcome back. You hear the word COVID. You then hear vaccine, testing, dying. This story is about living through the eyes of 4 teenagers.
In 1348, Giovanni Boccaccio wrote the Decameron, a collection of novellas after fleeing the city where his own parents died from the plague. It's 2020, and this is only the first wave, almost a timeline of different quarantines that had happened in history and what's happening now. It's 2020, and I want to write because I know I have something to say. The problem is I can't figure out what. It's 2020.
And I'm thinking how my grandfather was a boxer, slow motion John Davis. My grandfather moved in with my mother and I. Now his bones are a symphony of pain his punches couldn't match up to. He used to be a boxer. His final chapters and my most recent don't blend, but sometimes they collide. He's not used to being taken care of rather than being the caregiver. I'm paying forward what he gave my mother. I am a caretaker. Navigating life as a student, life keeps moving and I'm not sure if that's bad for me or him. The newness of codependency has my grandfather on the ropes now at his ripe old age of 78. And my family is unsure when the final blow will land. On my way to getting my bachelor's and eventually my master's, I will still be taking care of him then. Doing my best at school to ensure that the current situation doesn't have me or my degree on the ropes. I wanted to share this story while keeping my grandfather in the fight for just one more round.
It's 2020, and I am useless. Unable to do anything except beat myself up. It's 2020 that they'll reduce to a paragraph in a textbook. This might not be what history chooses to remember, but it's really important to us right now. It's 2020.
And Miss Rona struts into our dining room and demands we get back to work. COVID has given families a lot of time to be together without being together. Our wooden chairs become office cubicles. The living room couch becomes my parents' bedroom. Everybody was working from home, but it was like, we would work in the same section, but not really with each other. It would just be long periods of silence. My bed becomes my desk. The binding on my back is as severed as my notebooks, fingertips more chewed than my pin caps. Physically, I'm fine, but my headphones act as makeshift IVs, pumping negativity into my bloodstream. And there's no one by my bedside, because as far as they know, I'm asymptomatic. Only crying at nighttime. I keep myself quarantined so no one feels as lonely as I do.
It's 2020, and I've had to spend too much time with myself, and how do you hide from that? It's 2020.
Don't you know we can't control everything? Every day I'm looking for the peace to accept this, the courage to change the things I can, and the distance to know the difference. Teaching myself to be human again, appreciating the silence and the solitude, and how difficult it is to
be by yourself and be alone away from society. How asymptomatic we are to the necessity of human interaction. This is history. Fighting a disease within the four walls of a house. This is just the first wave. Maybe this is a goodbye to normalcy.
It's 2020. Our stories are worth remembering, and they are history in some form.
Thanks to former 9 News crime and justice reporter Anastasia Bolton for that report. She sent us that piece from her new home in Houston. How about that? The most Colorado thing we saw today is one woman's dedication to all things mountain sports. Tina was out riding her bike and steamboat and decided she needed a new snowboard. They were on sale, so she did what any Coloradan would do. She bought the board knowing she didn't have a car to put it in, and she just carried it on her bike while she pedaled home. It made for another epic mashup of two sports we love here in Colorado, and I can't wait to hit the mountain this year. Some traditional fall activities will not be canceled this year. That's this week's good news and your feedback. Next. Welcome back. It's another Good News Friday on Next, and this week we witnessed a few personal celebrations in a field of corn at Chatfield Farms.
My good news is that the sun is out and the snow is all gone.
My good news is the corn maze is open and it's going to be a fabulous weekend.
Oh, what's our good news in the maze?
That it's really
that we made it out.
My good news is that my grandma came to visit us from Pittsburgh.
My good news is that I just got the opportunity to be hired for a pediatric dentistry office, and I love kids.
My good news is kindergarten is actually nice. I get to spend time with my grandma. My good news is that I love going on remote field trips with friends and family.
My good news is I woke up this morning and I'm having a very blessed day.
My good news is getting to go back to school and see all my friends and be able to go to recess and yeah.
My good news is I flew all the way in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to spend time with my grandchildren. And I enjoy spending time with them. They're in the midst of all this COVID going on. Being able to have time with family is awesome.
My good news for today is I know things are going to get better. Got a great corn maze and a great pumpkin patch, which opens the first day of October.
My good news is kindergarten rocks.
That story brought to you by photojournalist Tom Cole. Kindergarten does rock. All right, some feedback tonight. Let's go to the next email. Norma Mateo says, where is Kyle Clark? I don't think he's here. Sorry. I'll be back on Monday. Thanks for joining me. See you then.